Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. I have the honor of having Ian, don't steal my laptop, in the house. He's had a rough go of it with electronic devices. You know, I was thinking about it today. You should have a dummy laptop that you just leave out, and maybe it's the bait. The people won't steal it.
Just have bait, yeah.
How you doing, my brother?
Tough go around. Dude, I am honored to be on here. I'm a huge fan of yours, Austin. Don't mean to geek out too hard, but you changed my life, man. So it's an honor to be on here. Keep doing your thing. So
I appreciate
just
that,
hope
my
I can
brother.
add some value.
Thank you so much, man. So what I like to do with my guests, I like them to tell the story, kind of start their story, and we'll kind of go from there.
All right. Well, I'll do the best I can. My name is Ian Calabria. I'm currently a realtor here in Atlanta. Man, I really didn't have a lot of direction in my life about a year or so ago. And I swear my life has just changed completely in the last year. So really started getting direction and, you know, feeling my spirituality. So stuff has been growing, man. I mean, you know, that's kind of what I wanted to dig into.
What were you doing prior to that year?
A lot of just nothing, you know.
Yeah. What were you doing for what were you doing for work?
I'd worked at a hibachi restaurant when I was in high school, and then out of high school worked for golf course, pretty nice golf course for a while, and kind of taught me a work ethic and discipline. But just feeling real sad the whole time and out of sorts. A lot of people I was hanging out with just weren't really on anything. I think a lot of people kind of go through that stage of not knowing what's happening.
Yeah, and the comfort of those people not pushing you is something that it's easy to lean into because they're not asking more of you than you're willing to give.
Exactly. And consistently just sitting down and not doing anything or wanting to just be phased out, whether that's distracting yourself, video games, or, you know, doing drugs or something. It's all the same, just not being present. So.
And what was the kind of trigger for you, or the starting off point that kind of got you out of your funk? You know, there's a lot of people that are listening that might not be exactly where they want to be right now, or they're, you know, using too much marijuana, they're watching too much TV, or all that stuff. What was kind of the genesis behind the transformation?
That's a great question. I think a huge catalyst was just one day I kind of woke up and saw what I was doing and who I was around. Kind of saw everybody was stagnant, and a couple of buddies were just real heavy into doing a lot of drugs, and I just decided that really wasn't for me. So came out here from North Carolina about 2 years ago, and kind of had to just change my life around. I don't know what the one point that drove me. I think my grandmother passing away really kind of triggered the inside of me. Like, is this how I want to be living my whole life, or haven't really done anything? So might as well dig inside and find something inside of me to be passionate about. Because
it's alarming to me how quickly the years can get away, but also more importantly, how you can not realize that we have one life. We have one life. We have one trip around, and everybody's walking around like they can go down to the fucking retail store and pick up another one. And you can look up, and it could be a good 10, 15 years, and you don't even know what fucking happened.
Dude, exactly. I'm so glad I caught it kind of early. It was almost like I was asleep for, 20 years. So I'm 21 now, and just feel like I've been so great, been real fortunate to land in a good spot and have a really supportive family to catch me,
So
Not
let's
that I was
talk.
bad off.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're not out there beating anybody up or anything, or like, hurting people. But so talk about, how it got started. Talk about like how you got going and you started shifting things.
Almost being self-aware of my circumstances, and I always kind of carried a victim mentality. I think, hearing that from you in one of your first episodes, that really resonated with me, how just walking around like, what this happened to me, and because this happened to me is why I don't want to do this. If that makes sense. And just kind of really woke up to these limiting victim mentality and beliefs. And then took some time to just be like, man, what the fuck is my life right now? What am I living for? So went through a real dark place. I think a lot of people do before you get to that direction, so
what
having
advice,
some direction now.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody? Cause it's 100% true. I wrote in my journal this morning. Too funny that you said that. Sometimes you got to walk into the head of the storm in order to find the calmness.
Couldn't have said it better. I think for me, I was looking at who I was. I didn't have any respect for myself and didn't really know who I was when I'm looking in the mirror. I think something big you got to do is just kind of stare at yourself and think about people you respect and who you admire, who you want to be like, and kind of shape your identity or your habits more so to be that person who you want to be. It's easier said than done, but for somebody that's really going through the shit right now, I think what you got to do is just take it head on, like walk into that storm.
And something that is my favorite exercise ever, and I won't go into the whole exercise, but when you say like something you look up to, somebody you admire to, the only way you as a human would see those qualities in somebody else if they were already inside of you.
That's real. And that's some bombs.
It's the truth, because you can't see what you don't have. And so understand that what you look up to and what you admire to be is inside of you currently as you sit here today. And so you started self-reflecting, you went through a dark period. And then when you got through the dark period, what happened next?
Well, it's still happening.
It's still happening. I love it. Well, how did you find real estate?
I'm really grateful to have some family that was involved in real estate. Actually, a good buddy of mine I grew up with, you've probably known him since second grade or so. His dad was a big realtor back in Asheville. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Bill Byrne. And I was always like, man, this guy doesn't ever seem like he's really working and really enjoying what he's doing. And, selling a ton of real estate, just living. People would like flock to him, and his energy was so good. And he had such an abundant, personality that people would come to him. And I was like, man, this guy really knows a ton, but he's really down to earth. So it's like, who is the coolest person I know that makes the most money? And I would think about him and a few other people, and I'm like, damn, I better get into real estate. Immediately after that, like senior year of high school, enrolled in a real estate class and didn't know what the hell anybody was talking about. I managed to get my license and then hit the ground. Well, I'll say for 2 years, I probably wasn't really doing much at all. Still, my old habits creeping up, and I would sit in the office and just like look around. I didn't know. It's, anyway, so I started figuring it out. Got with some really cool people once I moved to Atlanta, and they showed me the ropes. I was just doing kind of gopher stuff, but picked it up along the way, started writing contracts. And that's what got me into real estate. Basically thinking about the coolest person that made the most money.
And for somebody who doesn't understand what gophering is, because a lot of people don't want to put in the hard work to get started or get surrounded by great people, what were you doing? Kind of explain that to us a little bit so people understand.
Yeah, doing kind of the grunt work, as I would say, but it really wasn't grunt work at all. I mean, it's pretty, comparing to getting on the course at 4 a.m. and mowing grass, it was kind of nothing, but putting signs up, open house signs or for sale signs, and kind of running around, meeting buyers or opening doors, turn lights on, stuff like that. Kind of the back end of the real estate stuff. If that makes sense, running errands pretty much. I think I would go and I'd like pick up shampoo and conditioner for my old boss for a while. Just little stuff like that, kind of.
So
make you humble.
So not a lot of ego driven tasks, right? Kind of some humbling driven tasks. How did you sort that out with your young 20-year-old self? How did you sort that out and tell yourself that maybe this is just what I need to do right now, and you weren't above it?
Well, my ego didn't really get in the way of it. I was like, man, I mean, I'm in these multi-million-dollar houses and talking to these amazing people. But when I would be doing those tasks, like picking up shampoo or going and getting dry cleaning or stuff, I'd be like, man, I'm getting paid $15 to go drive around. So it wasn't ever, I didn't ever really have a hard head about it. Though thinking back, sometimes I was like, what the, just you go do this. But anyway.
So what advice would you give to somebody as we start getting into your real estate career? Because I notice, I have a lot of young real estate agents or investors that, depending on what brokerage they get with, there's not a lot of training involved for some, unless you're with like a good team or something. And a lot of people, like I hear the same thing over time. Like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Like, what was your tactic to learn contracts? What was your tactic to kind of get the training that you needed when you started out?
Thankfully, I landed with the brokerage I'm at now, and that lady I was talking about, she's just phenomenal. Before that, I was in the same boat for about 2 years. Started with KW, Keller Williams, and they've got great training, but I just wasn't really motivated to go and take that leap. Also, it's real. So anyway, in short, I think for people to get their feet off the ground or really know what to do every day, real estate's like 95% marketing and probably 5% real estate. So in the beginning, it sounds kind of messed up, but as long as you're with somebody that you can pick up the game from, then it's all just getting business and then learning from there. That sounds really backward, but it's so really aligning yourself with a mentor and finding somebody that's crushing it that you can model your business after or take and learn contracts from there.
I was listening to Jim Wick today on Bigger Pockets, and he was talking about that people don't understand that the mechanism of real estate is pretty self-explanatory. It's the mindset aspect of the day in and day out tasks that people don't focus on. Like, how many podcasts do you need to listen to about flipping a house? How many podcasts do you need to listen to about multifamily? It doesn't matter. Like, when what I'm getting from you is like, you just took action and kept moving forward and were surrounded by people that you respected, and eventually like the contracts and everything that you needed just kind of figured itself out in the end.
Exactly. You just got to take action. There's so many people sitting around or figuring out what's next. Like, I love my office, but I walk around, sometimes people are just like on social media all day, not really just waiting for somebody to call them or waiting to go out. So
sure.
When I first started getting business, it took me about more than a year of cold calling, door knocking, but it's real simple. Like, if you plug in a podcast, I mean, listen to anybody, the game's out there. You just got to kind of take it and make something happen. Like, all the information's out there, but you don't want to be caught in that analysis paralysis. Like, somebody looking for their first deal, just got to go out there and hit the streets, man.
So what was your first deal?
My first deal was a $40,000 condo.
Whoa, let's go.
This lady I've been following up with from a cold call, the first lady that was ever like gave me the time of day, and super sweet, and her mom was in the hospital, and I've been following up with her months on end. Never even knew the address of the place I was calling about. It was a wrong number. I called her. And my script, shout out to Ricky Caruth. It's basically like, hey, my name's Ian. The house around the corner from you just sold. Is there anything I can do to help you? And so it's real, just genuine, like, want to give them some insight and just introduce yourself. But anyway, we've been talking. She had all these events going on in her life, man. And I just was like there, like I was living in it with her. And Anyway, one day she's like, yeah, I said I want to sell my condo. My mom finally passed away. And I've had some renters in there. They're just destroying the place. This is down in Panthersville, which is kind of how it sounds. It's pretty rough down there, just outside the perimeter, like Southeast Atlanta. But anyway, I rode out there one day and met her, and super sweet. She actually had cancer, and I didn't know that. But the sweetest lady, man. And the place was full of roaches. There was all like shit all over the walls. It was disgusting. And I was like, man, this is gonna be my first listing. So, dude, I got on my knees, cleaned all that shit, got all the cockroaches out there, pulled all the weeds out. And that was like a big thing. I didn't tell anybody about that. I just acted like, oh, this is just going to be another sale. But I just, from then on, I was like, man, if I give it all my energy and do a great job, I know that shit will reciprocate a million times over. Still waiting on it too, but it's starting to. So,
and wow, that's a powerful story, dude. I didn't know that about you. So you didn't pass on it because it wasn't going to be that much commission and it wasn't ideal. And you just decided that you were going to make an effort. And my question to you is what do you think you learned about yourself in that moment?
Just that I'm putting in the work. I've never told anybody that story or gone in detail about it. It was kind of like we're on the sales meeting. There's like, 2 million, $3 million houses. And then it's like, you see 40,000 on there. But I think what I learned in that moment is just give people your all and genuinely care for them. And then it doesn't matter how much money you're going to make. The money stuff will sort itself out. But
go ahead.
Another thing I was going to bring up is you asked me why I got into real estate. Another thing is like, I don't know who put this on me first, but ended up hearing the question, what would you do if you already had all the money in the world? What would your day look like? I was like, man, I mean, just to help people out and get them into places, see their goals turn true. So felt like real estate was one thing I could do that with.
Would you make off that $40,000 condo?
I want to say, I think $600, if that.
Let's go. You know what's interesting? Because I know where you're headed and I know what you've done already. I know that in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and I want you to sit with it later, maybe not during the podcast, but I think that $600 is going to be more like 10 million. Like, and what I mean by that is like the definition of who you became in that $600 is the foundation for everything that's happened since.
Right. I mean,
and I don't think people look at it from that context. They look at it from a transaction place when really the stepping stones are laid daily. Like the stepping stones of like Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, those are laid in daily habits, not in signifying out what this $600 means to you, right? Like me getting sober, like means who gives a fuck about the money? Like the act of getting sober is the greatest gift that I can ever give the world, because how many people can I impact with my story? You can't put a price tag on it.
Dude, you can't. I mean, we jumped on a coaching call one time when I first heard you or got you on Instagram, and checked your stuff out. And I'm like, man, I'm your views have gone up and stuff, but I'm like, damn, like this guy is really putting the realest shit out there. Like it resonates in my soul. So I know there's other people that feel that way extremely. So you're doing a good thing out here, man.
I appreciate that. What was the next deal that you got going on?
Well, I sold another one in that complex that was like 46,000.
Uh-oh. See, you're hot. That complex is your honey hole.
And then I let me see, I forget what order, but I've had that was been October. I probably had 6 sales since January from $200,000.
How much have you closed year to date, or like in the last year, do you think?
So since January, I've closed about 2 million. That's not anything crazy. My goal is
but hold on. It's I mean, in like 4 months, 3.5 months, you closed 2 million. That's a big step up from 40,000.
Hell yeah, it is. I looked at my year-to-date earnings from last year, and it was like those two, like 46 and then 40. I'm like, damn, 86,000.
So what
Those
would
are the hardest deals of my life, too.
Yeah, exactly. What would you attribute the young kids would say it, what you would attribute your glow up in the real estate space? Dude, sorry, I got that from somebody. I love it.
That delayed gratification. I mean, I was putting in the work. I knew it would come, but I really hit like rock bottom there for a minute. Thankfully, I was, my mom really looked out, and I was able to stay with her. But man, I was like, damn, I'm fucking broke right now. Like, I can't even pay my dues or anything. So flash forward, I'd been working with that lady I was talking about for a year. And she would pay me like basically salary or hourly. And I learned a ton from her. But then one day she's like, man, I don't want you to cold call. Like, I got a call from this other realtor that said you cold called her clients, and you got to cut that shit. She's like one of the top agents in Atlanta, if not the top. And I totally respected that. I was like, yeah, I kind of figured this would happen, but look, I'm trying to go out here and make a name for myself. But man, I was in the booth calling probably at least 4 hours a day, probably making 200 or 300 calls. And that's not like the one thing I think that every realtor's got to do. If you don't like cold calling, then don't do that shit. Go out and hit the streets, or, send handwritten notes. But at the end of the day, you got to introduce yourself to as much people as you can. Make sure everybody knows what you're doing. So when I came here, I mean, I didn't know anybody, So that's what you got to do at the end of the day, is just go out and meet as many people as you can.
How has your journey with personal development, like fitness and health, like how is that affecting you in kind of just your business, but more importantly, like your mental capacity?
It's a lifestyle change. Like who back to the question of who I admired and who I looked up to. It seemed like that wholesomeness from people, all that goes hand in hand, especially in real estate. Like there's no off. There really isn't. It's your lifestyle. So I've recently just got into that fitness space, like doing that 75 hard. I see you're grinding. Mm-hmm. When I first started that, I'm like, oh my gosh, man, this is like intense. But as you go, I'm in like phase 2 on my second 75 hard now. And I'm like, it's really just the habits. If you change your identity, like in that Atomic Habits book, just change your identity. And so I'm like, man, I kind of want to be a freaking swole ass motherfucker. So I'm putting in that work.
So what advice for anybody out there, but more importantly, talking to yourself, what advice would you have given to yourself, the 21-year-old version now? What advice would you give to the 18-year-old version of yourself?
Dude, I'd probably go back and like beat the shit out of him. No, really, just read a book, man. Like pick a good book and just read it. I think that development, and when you're in such a dark place and nobody's going to come and like pull you out, you really got to like find it inside yourself. So no amount of weed or anything is going to make you feel better. It's really inside of you. Nothing against all that stuff, but it's I think there's a lot, especially where I'm from, there's a lot of people that just are numb, and there's just an unlimited amount of potential. So shit, I don't know what I'd say. Really just get the fuck up and go do something.
I love it. And if I were to ask you how you see your life going in the next 2 years, what would you say is going to happen? What are you focused on? What are you looking forward to in the future?
I've recently just started journaling and planning out my days, kind of making a more committed effort to stick to what I'm doing. But just in the last 3 months, people that I've met and my friends that I'm around have skyrocketed. So, not even monetarily, but I think I'm just going to be on a whole nother level. I don't know exactly where I see that, but just the feeling I get is I'm loving my life right now. So, want to ultimately start.
Are you looking to get into some investments and stuff like that?
Yeah, like I'm already looking at stuff, and I've been networking with people, so it's kind of slim pickings right now, And I think, that's no excuse at all. So, there's some more people I meet. I'm destined to go and find something.
And what value do you see in the investment piece as far as not being an agent that's just an agent?
Showing other people that this is possible. I had never given it any thought of, oh man, I'm staying in this apartment, I'm paying rent. I wonder who owns this, You're really owning like a real asset that everyone needs a place to live. But ultimately for other agents or other people, I can kind of open that door and say, this is possible. There's like a curtain for a lot of people. I feel like you're not, if you don't know, then you don't know,
Yeah. And then ultimately it's interesting. When I joined my first mastermind, the guy asked me to coffee and he was like, why do you want to join? And I said, because my dreams are bigger than the people I'm around. And he said, fuck, you're in, done. He's like, that's the greatest answer I've ever heard. And I feel like that's kind of the same scenario with what happened to you, is that it was always there. It was just hidden by a lack of action. And now that you have the action we might have started out with a $40,000 condo, but to sell 2 million in 3.5 months, probably going to finish off the year, north of 7 million, 8 million, something like that, 6 million. That's a big fucking difference from 86 grand. And, that feeling alone, what I try to tell everybody, and I'm sure you're in the process of doing that, is just to chase the feeling. Like chase the feeling in the momentum of that positivity, and don't allow the negative parts to get into your world.
Dude, that is so real. Like you can't let any other thing beside that positivity inside. Dude, even when I'm sleeping, I'm listening to like some I am affirmations, like, like I'm feeling this, emulate the feeling of after closing, or, just I'll feel that all the time. And then more stuff will come and attract to you. Sure. I've always been into that hippy dippy stuff, but man, it's real.
What advice would you give to the agents? I know you've been playing around with it, getting a lot more aggressive on social media. We're in a new age for everybody. What advice would you give to agents, kind of thing that you've learned in the social media space, and just kind of how to promote yourself?
Social media for me, it was really slept on. I didn't really start rocking out on it until met people like you, and I was like, man, I can meet some cool people on Instagram. Or Instagram's really what I'm heavy on. But the ability to meet people, and you could just shoot, do stuff like this with them. Like you can just get on. It's literally so powerful. My boy, like he sells a lot of real estate too. All he does is just DM people all day. That's how he's got all of his buyers, all of his listings, just hitting people up, commenting on their stuff. It's a necessary evil. I don't like a lot of aspects of it. We're caught in this instant gratification, like everything is now. But at the same time, you kind of gotta use it. So either use it or lose it. And I think you can affect so many people in such a short amount of time. So just get on there and be yourself. Like just make a video and tell people what you're doing.
No, I couldn't agree. I want to make sure, I know you had a list over there. I want to make sure we cover everything that you wanted to talk about, because I don't want to leave anything unsaid. So
I think we hit on a lot of things. I didn't think we'd hit on so much so fast. I think the biggest thing is putting in the work and visualizing who you want to be. There's the how. You don't worry about that. Just who. Just it's all like. It's all there, whether you're in bigger pockets or really anything, real estate rock stars, all that will figure itself out. Just be really concise on what you're here for. You're here to help people. and make a difference. So that's my advice to newer agents, is just keep that in mind of how you can add value and help people, because they need you, man. Like, there's a ton of agents out here that are just worried about a check. And when you set yourself apart from that, you're different from 99% of them already, as long as you just have pure intentions and you're trying to help people, not to undercut. And like, this investor guy was like, yo, man, can you send me some comps for this property? I'm like, man, they never use me. You ain't going to use me. So no, know your worth, but ultimately just try to help people. That sounded shallow, but yeah, I mean, just do your thing, man. Be yourself. People want to come to you as long as you got the right intentions.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you don't know what you're worth, or you don't have a personal inner standard, people are going to walk all over you. And then you're going to wake up one day and realize that you haven't got what you need out of life. And the number one thing to do it is there's a society out there. It's very heavy in people pleasers. And I'm all about adding value to people, and I'm all about that. But you have to understand that the number one person that you need to people please first is yourself. And when you people please yourself and you hold your internal standards, people will act accordingly. Water finds its level. So if you carry yourself better, you will attract better people, you will attract better clients, you will attract better friends. But you have to start inward first, and it has to be with you in order to radiate that energy off to other people. And then the people that you need in your life will come back tenfold. I promise.
Dude, you guys just got to listen to Austin. I mean, dude is like a sensei.
You know what I don't share with a lot of people, and I'll share with you. Sometimes I feel like I black out sometimes when I talk.
Yeah.
I'm just like, they'll repeat a quote back to me, and they're like, who said that? And they're like, you did, dumbass. And I'm like, oh, I don't remember that. So now I started like writing down things I say because I want to remember them all. So
dude, you're in the flow. That's one thing, is like you're a pure person. I try to strive like that every day. It's just you're living through yourself. You might not know what the fuck you're talking about, but it's real.
I love it. I appreciate that, bro. So if people want to find out more about you, follow your journey, how would they do that?
I'm trying to get more active. Today, I'm actually going to go out and start making some more content. And shout out to you for having me on this. But you can hit me on Real Estate Ian on Instagram. That's Real Estate IAN. And then I'm going to make a YouTube, but stay tuned for that. I'll announce that. So just trying to pump some stuff out. I know there's a blogger inside me that people need to see. And so anyway, man, love me or hate me, but going to the top.
I love it, man. Well, dude, I can't thank you enough for coming on. My camera's been acting weird the last 2 days, so it just froze on me, but we got it taken care of. Man, appreciate you so much, dude. Appreciate you sharing your story. I'm going to talk about that $40,000 shitbag condo for all day today, because it's such a metaphor for so many things. And I want you to wear a shirt when you sell 9 million this year at the end of the year that says $600 made me who I am.
Exactly.
I love it.
Before we jump off here, I want to just touch base on dude, Austin, you really inspire so many people, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Just your story, and then you get vulnerable in here, man. You really show the people get real. And never really met anybody like you. So you helped me grow so much, and then having some super cool people on here too, constantly dropping bombs and stuff that I listen to it in the shower every morning. Be like, yeah, bro, you're in my brain.
Okay. It's not to get awkward, guys. We gotta get out of here. No, I can't thank you enough.
Keep doing your thing, dude.
You know what's funny? We're recording this. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the podcast. So thank you.
I know. And I was like, dude, I know Austin's got to have me on here for his 1 year.
I appreciate you, my brother. Guys, if you like this episode, make sure you drop us a review. Send it out to your friends. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.